From prison to peer work, brought to you in partnership with the Pursue It If You Want It nonprofit organization. Join us as we explore these powerful narratives that not only highlight the struggles, but also celebrate the victories of individuals who have used their past as a stepping stone to build a promising future. We delve deep into the lives of individuals who have turned their experiences into powerful stories of success through the strength of resilience and peer support. Stay tuned for episodes that promise to be as enlightening as they are inspiring.
We back with a follow-up. This is not the first time Peter has sat in this chair, metaphorically speaking, but also for real. Prison to peer work. We do interviews where we highlight the successes of people that have navigated all kinds of prisons, not just the judicial system itself, but whether it be addiction, mental health, any form of trauma that has held them back. And then we come and we show what it looks like to be resilient, to engage in personal, internal evolution, and to grow every single day until they get to a place like where Peter's at today, where it can talk about what happened and what's happening, and those things be vastly different. So last time you were on the show, we talked about a lot. You had quite a bit of views and support. And I just think it's important to highlight, when we say like recovery is possible and doing the things that we do to maintain this new life when it's so easy for us to go backwards.
True.
It's a phone call away in a lot of cases.
Right.
So since your last interview, what would you say your biggest accomplishment has been?
Since my last interview, I would say my biggest accomplishment is I would say to probably to continue my education. Continue my education and be like, stuck to my goal, being on track with that, not give up on it.
And you're going to school for
I'm in SPSCC and I'm taking business administration.
I don't know why I thought you were going to school for social work. Might be someone else.
I changed my degree plan from social work to business administration.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's why. Because I remember, I thought my brain was telling me we talked about you doing social work, and so you're no longer on the path of like the SUDP stuff. You're going more into business administrative side.
Business administration side, yes.
Yeah, that's fire. So when you get done with that, we'll be having a conversation or two. And so, how would you say your perspectives on reentry, the whole process, how have they evolved over time?
So I've always thought reentry as just one level. Not always. At first, I thought it was just one level, and that level was just not go back to prison. But there's so many different levels of reentry that have become aware to me now. And reentry is not just getting out of jail and, or coming out of wherever you came out of and just hitting the street to say, I'm here. Now it's over. It's a lot more complex than that. It's a daily thing to, set your mind to, and to keep progressing. It just doesn't end for me.
Yeah. Kind of like that shirt you got on. It's a 365 ordeal.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what I'm also hearing too is recently I've actually come to sort of the same understanding. I actually came across I think it was a webinar on YouTube, Dr. Sandra Smith out of Texas, and she was saying something about the difference between being released and freedom, which is really, like you said, it's totally different levels, because getting released is just when they open the door for you to physically step back into society.
Right.
But actually, the reentry process, a lot of it should start, if it doesn't, before you get out.
Yeah.
And then when you get out, it's like, okay, what's there? Who's there? Like,
Mm-hmm.
who's your natural supports? How can you build all these relationships that suffered on some level from your absence? Even if they was riding with you the whole time, there's still repair,
Yeah.
you know, to work on and focus on. And so, matter of fact, that kind of leads into the next question. Is, so how has that repair happened over time with your family, with your children, in your personal life?
For me, the repair comes over time. Just when you're gone for a while, or you lived a certain way this whole time, it's difficult for your family or that relationship person, whoever it is, to see you in a different light.
Mm,
You know, and
yeah.
just cause I maybe have it in my mind that, this is how I'm going to be, and I feel this way about myself, and I'm never going to turn back. That doesn't mean that the trauma or damage that was done is automatic for the relationship side of it.
Yeah, it's
You
going
know,
to take other people longer
yeah,
to come to
it's
that.
going to take them a lot longer, and the the challenge is to not revert or not be sensitive to the other person's trauma.
Mm.
You know, however that may look like for them, you have to be sensitive to the other person's trauma, and just regardless of what we may face, just keep on walking in my light, how I want to live my life.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like you're referencing like being trauma informed
Yeah.
with your partners too, and not just like in the field, like you hear it all the time. But sometimes being trauma informed in this regard, it means like them maybe not having faith in you, or them living in that space where you said this over and over and over,
Hmm.
but you're like, no, but this time it's real.
Hmm.
But having that grace to be like, oh, well, I can see from your side, well, yeah, I probably wouldn't believe me either, right?
Right.
And then instead of going into arguments, or like you're saying, being resistant to that or taking it personal, because you know where you are inside,
Hmm.
but you have to be vigilant in modeling that for them
Right.
to
Absolutely.
eventually come around and be like, oh shit, it is real.
Absolutely.
And it might take months, it might take years, whatever it takes, as long as you're doing what you're
I
doing.
always
And
say it takes time and situations,
yeah.
because sometimes words don't work no more.
So what are some new challenges since maybe last time we sat together and talked about this? Some new challenges that you faced in maintaining your success, but obviously you're able to get through
Um,
those.
the new challenge, um, the biggest challenge, you probably can relate to this, is being busy.
Mm.
Um, time management, you know, time management. Um,
So to clarify, the challenge is it not being busy or being too busy?
being too busy.
That's the
I won't
challenge.
say too busy, but I tend to overload my plate because I want to do this and I want to do this, and it
Double
might
booking
not.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tend to overload my plate, and I forget to leave time for myself. Self care is super important.
Mm.
Sleep and self care for me is super important, and you know if you don't get your self care in, then you can burn yourself out, and I can't live up to my full potential, like on a daily basis, if I don't take care of myself.
Yeah. Exactly. It's kind of like the analogy I use with, if we're born, or if we wake up every day with a certain amount of energy allocated to us, and this energy is for that 24-hour period, it's like, how are we using that currency? Are we investing it, or are we spending it? If we're spending it, it's gone. If we're investing it, it can come back. But at the same time, in order to replenish that energy, that's where self care comes in. Otherwise, you
Mm,
get to 7, 8 p.m., somebody calls you with some BS. It's like, I got insufficient funds to even have this conversation. Like,
mhm,
I can't
mhm.
afford it, because then it can go, you can be living in that kind of borderline burnt out space, even for the day. Like it doesn't have to be over months. Like we get burnt out in 24 hours
True.
if we're not careful with how much we're spending our
Right.
energy, how much we're just giving it to the things that we're doing, opposed to like taking a moment for ourselves. Like you said, I really appreciate that. Um, so how have you stayed connected to your community and how are you supporting others through like a reentry process, even if it's just in your personal life?
Um, I'm quick to give people rides, carpool to the AA or the NA meetings. Somebody reaches out for me for, either advice or just an ear to listen to. Um, I'm often highly available, you know. Uh, but I'm quick to get people to where they need to go as far as the support groups or we go into a class or something. That's that's mainly what I be doing. I have no problem doing that at all.
You just make yourself
Carpool,
available for
yeah,
when you can, how you can. And I like that because it doesn't feel like you're like overextending. You're just kind of like if the opportunity arises
yeah,
to
I got
provide
you.
some type of support, then
Yep,
all right, I'm here. 'Cause
yeah,
you're not, and you're doing full-time school,
full time school.
still working.
I do not work right now. Full time school is enough work on my case, on my load right now.
Yeah, I remember you're doing like the landscaping
I
stuff,
was
but this kind of
landscaping.
that season too anyway, where it kind of died off when
Yeah,
it started to
yeah.
get cold. What role does mentorship play in your journey, both as a mentor and mentee?
Um, well, my mentor, Coach B. uh,
I didn't write the questions.
it's a it's a good mentor and mentee. I feel like we have a good mentor mentee relationship, and I feel like I could call on you anytime to even if it's just to play a game of chess or you know good mornings or anything. It provides a positive vibe. It kicked that vibe off.
Yeah.
It definitely kicked the vibe off. We share knowledge with each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just on a I would say it's on a personal level. You know, yeah, you give me advice, I give you feedback and stuff like that. We help each other out on our business levels, but we'll stop by and be like, hey, you want to play a game of chess or something, or
Yeah, yeah, and that's
shoot
and
some
that's feeding
hoop,
your
or
mind.
that
So,
that's very important and kick the vibe off. I can dig it.
so let me turn into another question, which kind of feeds off of that, and I'm thinking about like because I remember who you were,
Mm.
or not even necessarily like who you were, but the image that you were upholding in your past life, right? And the fact that you mentioned a couple times, like there's people like us that come from that life that look at like there's a really high standard for mentorship,
Hmm.
right? We think in terms of like big homie, whatever,
Hmm.
and so your advice to someone else coming out like us, and you're telling them like, bro, get you a mentor, right?
Hmm.
What are some of the qualities that they would want to like have on their checklist when they're like choosing a mentor, for example? And think in terms of like us
I
coming,
would say if you're choosing your mentor, choose someone that has a similar story to yourself. I would say choose someone that isn't afraid to choose someone who isn't always a yes man to you.
mm,
You know, choose someone who's going to tell you the real, regardless if it's you want to hear it or not. You
okay,
know, and then choose someone who is probably doing something similar to where you want to be too. Straight up.
yeah. That's how I chose mine. Those are Those are right on point, right? Because a lot of it, when it comes to like, you're looking for guidance in a direction, like you said, where you want to go. Like if I want to do social work or peer run organizations, I'm not going to have a mechanic as my mentor. Right?
Right.
Even if the other boxes check, like, okay, he has a similar story or she has a similar story, whatever the case may be. But part of that mentorship is the growth. It's eventually, even mentors, just like peers, the goal is to eventually, kind of work yourself out of a mentorship, and hopefully it becomes a residual pattern where your mentorship kind of comes to a close, but it's always still there if you need to make that call and get that clarification or some validation or whatever it is, or you just want to shoot some thoughts off someone. But also it provides you the modeling and the skill set to then be a mentor to someone else.
True.
For me, it's about paying it forward, right?
Yeah.
Someone mentored me in a space and learning all the different things to do all these different things. And I have multiple mentors in different areas. Like I have like a podcast mentor, like someone who's like, hey, this is some of the stuff to use, whatever. Then I have a nonprofit mentor who's done a nonprofit for a long time. And so whenever I have questions or what should I do next, even if it was like writing bylaws or how this looks or how this works. And then I have my DBHR trainer mentor, which is Joshua Smith, right? Mentored me into becoming the trainer that I am today. And then and so on and so forth. But each one I have to have like respect for.
Right.
And I have to actually be able to buy into them as a whole, right? So if you're a mentor, you're kind of selling something. You're selling your knowledge, you're selling your energy, you're selling your path almost, right, to somebody else. And it behooves you as a mentor to honor your own your own path that you're putting out to somebody else. You can't mentor somebody in this and then they find out you're over here doing that, right? So yeah, I appreciate that. And so what are some ways that you've continued to address mental health and substance use struggles that you faced in the past? Like, is it like on the forefront of your mind, or have you kind of like how are you managing?
So I constantly keep. I go to therapy. Several times a week. I do. I maintain my mental health or anxiety or stresses regularly with counseling, about like once every week or maybe once every 2 weeks, and that's just a regular practice for me. Um, I'm an advocate for counseling or just being able to talk to somebody, regardless if they have a PhD or regularly speaking what's going on with you or me. Um, it really helps out. It helps me to not hold stuff inside.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
you're advocate for safe spaces.
right.
Anybody can provide a safe space and be an ear or be somewhere to, like you say, let it out, right? You don't have to have a PhD to provide somebody in your family if you're relative to someone in reentry and they do have a stigma attached to like traditional therapy, right?
Mhm.
Be a safe space. Allow them, get curious, ask some questions, and some of that stuff that we deal with needs to be talked about. And sometimes we don't have those safe spaces, or we feel like people will view what we're saying as, and I've had this happen, like, oh, that's an excuse. But it's like, I'm not excusing anything. I'm just talking about what happened
What
while
you
I
mean?
was, like there's times where there's certain things that happened that led to incarcerations, right? And if
Right.
I'm explaining that, there's been times where, and sometimes it was even authority, or like when I was in programs and I go to tell, hey, this is what led to this, instead of them seeing it as like an objective series of facts
Hmm.
that led to an incarceration, they actually take it and be like, oh, you're just making excuses. That's like you're justifying a behavior.
Mm.
It's like, nah, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. Then I went to prison. Like
So
these
are
things
you
led
telling them
to.
about an experience?
Yeah, yeah. There've been times where, because sometimes I know when I was younger and when I was going through things, I blamed a lot. I did. I blamed a lot of external factors, people, forces for all the reasons and the incarceration experiences that I had. But as I got older, I'm able to actually just objectively say the facts.
Hmm.
But I take accountability retroactively and in the present now, where before I wasn't able to. But even now, there've been conversations where I've talked about those things and said, well, this happened, that happened, this happened. And it's like, well, are you making excuses? Like, no, that's just what
Yeah, that's
happened.
just what it is.
It's just what it is. But having a safe space to be able to just tell your story or share an experience, especially when we've been through some of those things that
Right.
the incarceration allows you to experience involuntarily.
Especially being able to, where I was able to tell my story without the judgment, you know, that's
Hmm.
part of the safe space is it's liberating. It's really liberating.
Yeah, I like that. Liberation. It's a it's one of the steps of freedom.
Is it?
It's one of the levels of reentry is kind of letting go of the weight,
Yeah.
taking it off. Uh, how has, or actually, this is a good one. So, can you share a specific moment when you realized that you were making a real difference in someone else's life?
Um, well, just recently, um, when someone asked me, could they be my mentee? Actually, they didn't even ask me. They just appointed me.
You're my mentor.
You're my mentor now. you know, it made me proud of their progress, and
I
it
can
made
see
me
it in your
proud of
face right
mine.
now, just talking about it.
Yeah,
You're lit up. Yeah.
it made me. I I recognized the difference that just me living in my own right, and this it just comes natural to me to want to help people and stuff, but I didn't really think about the difference in that I'm making to other people
Hmm.
until just recently that came along, and somebody asked, appointed me to be their mentor.
How did you accept that appointment? Are you their mentor now? Have you like mentally accepted that role, that responsibility?
um I wouldn't say there was any change in my mental because even before this person said that, I've always just tried to help them out however way I could and share my own experience with them.
Hmm.
As I've gone through life, and if they've gone through some of the same things, you know, I've always been a support. I've always just tried to be a support for them because I want the best for them, and it didn't really change anything. Didn't you know? It didn't snap and say, "Oh yeah, now I'm not somebody to run with a cape on for you or nothing. I'm
Yeah,
just me." You
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So that
But I mean, does it feel not necessarily validating, but in a way, it's like when you're trying to help someone, them making that, you know what, you're my mentor, it kind of validates their buy-in because it's one thing to help someone where you're not sure if they
hmm
want your help,
hmm
but when they actually kind of like prescribe you as
hmm
like the source of like, hey, you know what, like you have been helping, and I'm gonna acknowledge that, like you're my mentor,
yeah.
right? You
Yeah,
know,
it felt good. It felt good. It felt excuse me. It felt good, but yeah, it just felt good. It didn't change anything. Like you know what I'm trying to say. Like it didn't change anything to where it puff my chest out or made me feel any type of other position than I already was.
Yeah.
You know, it just felt good as far as natural good. You know, it was uplifting and stuff like that. But you know, as far as like a title, like a, you know, now you're the president of the United States and, you know, you might feel good. It didn't feel good like that, though. I didn't even think about it like that.
Yeah, no, it's good though. And sitting here getting asked these questions, you might not have even thought of it in
I
those
really
terms.
didn't.
You see what I'm saying?
That was
So
one
it's
of the
like,
questions you told me about.
you know, it's good though. I think in our community, man, especially in our Black community, we need more willing mentors that aren't like. Remember the old adage used to be like, um, you know, the game should be sold, not told
Not to
type
be
shit.
told.
But at the end of the day, like if we uplift each other more, if we're more forthcoming with information dissemination and genuine, authentic mentorships, not the big homie, little homie, go rob the thing type mentorships, but these types of mentorships, I think we could have a lot more progress in overall community growth.
Free game.
All that. So, what strategies would you say you found the most effective in building stability and maintaining your growth? Your mentee's watching.
What would I say? The strategies. I would say that connecting with community resources and organizations that are here to help you.
Mm.
Not taking too much pride in I got to do things myself or anything like that. Like there's there's organizations or people in the community. There's, you know, a bunch of supports, even natural supports, using all your support you have, you know, and turn it into, you know, your goals. You
Yeah.
know, building teams and, you know, not taking everything on myself.
Yeah. Sounds like, you know, what I'm hearing is there's a term in our field called recovery capital, right? And that's like building and relying on your recovery capital. And your recovery capital is just organizations, people, places, support groups, things that will enhance your level of success when you're going from one and transitioning to, you know, reentry or rehabilitation or just recovery from whatever. And recovery doesn't always have to be, oh, you're addicted to drugs and now you're recovering. You could be recovering from a traumatic experience, a traumatic relationship. You could be recovering from childhood trauma, whatever that looks like, so that you can heal, give yourself grace, give forgiveness to the things you've experienced, and then move forward and write yourself a new narrative. And a lot of that, what Peter is saying is lean into the resources in your community. They're there for that. And if you know which ones that are authentically there for that, and you tap in, your level of potential success increases exponentially every resource that you tap into. So you're right about all that. And how has your relationship with your family and children evolved since maybe the last time we talked? 'Cause I remember at the first interview, you were still kind of, you know, going through some stuff with your boy, and I know what I know. Things have gradually, like, dramatically changed since then with that relationship. Talk about that.
With my family, I have I have 5 kids, and with all of them, I'm in regular contact with them still. Um, I get my visits going on a couple times a week, and mm, there's nothing. I wouldn't say there's anything negatively bringing relationships, um, like bringing relationships backwards.
Mm.
I wouldn't say there's anything bringing relationships backwards. Like I said before, it's a work in progress. You know, it's a work in progress. You can't I can't tell anybody how much time they're supposed to take to heal or
Mm-hmm.
anything else like that. I respect people's positions, you know. Um, I respect people's, space and everything else like that. And and that's just what it is. I just keep living in my light and what I'm supposed to be doing, and let the rest fall in place whenever that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. And I remember you did and you weren't even court ordered, but you did some parenting stuff.
I did.
You know what I'm saying? So, kudos to you for that. Because I know, we get in our pride, like you were saying, and people don't want to, get that therapy or go see that counselor or do a parenting class of their own volition. They got to be court ordered. And the fact that you did that, and I know from talking to you and being your mentor, that a lot of that helped
It did.
with the
It's
relationship.
another tool I can put in my tool belt.
Exactly. And so, again, just know like there's so much out here that is available for people to just become better, and space alone, when we do that time, we do that 4 years, that 2 years, that 8 piece, that 10 piece, whatever it is, and you have kids out there, that's a lot to try to, if you focus on what you missed instead of focusing on what's right there, right? They're going to have whatever amount of time it takes them to feel safe and comfortable, and not have doubts about you leaving again, especially if you've done multiple bids, right? So you have to give grace to your children too, and treat them like, it's your responsibility to kind of bridge that gap. But also you can't force crossing that bridge either. You got to
No,
let them meet you, or meet them where they're
meet
at.
them where they're at.
Meet them where they're at. Exactly. Um, okay. What lessons from your past would you say you most often share with others in similar situations?
Say again.
Like what lessons from your past would you say are like if you're helping someone maybe for the first time and they know your story, right? And
Hmm.
you have like a go-to of like, if you only have the length of, sometimes they call it elevator speech, right? And what that means is you're in an elevator with somebody riding 3 floors. If you could say some things about the lessons you learned in that ride, what are like your go-to lessons from your past to now that you would kind of always have on the forefront of your mind?
Um, I would say to the lessons that I've learned, it's kind of I do say a lot about pie. I do say a lot about pie. Um, if you want it, go get it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
work for what you want for, and pursue it if you
Pursue it if you want.
pursue it if you want it.
I mean,
I really do. I mean, not to be cliche or anything, but if you want something, in our past lives, we wanted this or we wanted that, and that's what that's what the road that we was walking on.
mm-hmm.
Now, I want to be a better person. I want to be this. I want to be that. I want to have a college degree. I want to, and that's what I'm doing. It doesn't matter if I'm going to the parenting class, or I'm going to school every day, or I'm going to a support group, or I'm going to a little event over here. That's all going to build my character and my personality.
That's what you want,
And that's what I want.
and so yeah. And so the next question is, how do you measure success in reentry or in recovery? How do you measure it for yourself?
I would say I measure my success. Let's see. At the end of every day, I just be thankful for the struggles, the blessings, you know, even I don't look at if I don't do failures no more.
Mm,
Nothing's a failure to me.
okay.
I don't do failure. It's I don't even do backslides or nothing. It's like, how could I say this? I don't fail at things. I try harder, you know, or it's like lifting a weight. you lifting weights, sometimes I might need some help to get this weight up off me. I wasn't ready to do it by myself yet, but it doesn't mean that I can't do it.
Yeah, it's not a
You know,
fail, and that's
I
one
don't
of those
see a
things where
failure.
you're looking at the progress. And so if you take, using that same analogy, right? If you take 315 off the bench and you go down your chest and you go 3/4 of the way up, right? You're focused on that 3/4, not the 25% that you didn't rack it.
Right.
Like, you know what? I got it up 3/4. Next time, I'm gonna get it all the way.
Right.
So yeah, I can see that. I really like that. Yeah, that's vicious. So if you're listening, mentee, you know, we don't necessarily have to focus on failures, but focus on the progress. Sometimes it's just the act, right? We're not used to like setting goals. The fact that we set a goal is a step in the right direction. Whether we complete it or get halfway through it or partway through it, those are successes. You know, when you're doing something you haven't done before to get to somewhere you've never been, every step is a measure of success.
Yeah.
All right. How do you stay motivated to keep pushing forward and keep doing what you're doing?
Motivated. Okay. So I make goals,
Mm.
My vision right now is probably about 6 months, and
So you make goals in 6-month increments?
6-month increments.
Okay, I like
you
that.
know, and that way something isn't too far off, so I don't get discouraged. But it's not just for next week a little goal that's too easy, And as those 6 months, I break my goals down into smaller little groups, And every time I check something off on the list of this big goal, it motivates me to go, okay, and maybe it might be week by week, or I have 6 months. I might break those 6 months down into, 2 goals every month, and doing things like that. Then it helps me to get to my goals and keeps me motivated. That's how it keeps me motivated.
Yeah, it's like you're generating your own momentum with each new success.
Right.
Okay, you got this goal, then the snowball gets bigger and bigger, and then eventually that 6 months will come and you'll have a whole new set of goals.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I like that. That's actually a really good strategy I've seen in a lot of like successful entrepreneur books or people that put out stuff. That is like one of the main formulas I see repetitive in that type of field. Yeah.
Okay, I thought I made that up.
Well, maybe not the 6 months, but the breaking down, like having a big goal, break it down, hit a mark, momentum building, right? Now you're used to achieving things and it builds confidence as you go. And you might even not know that the way you've set it up might make them even increasingly difficult, like how we play video games, right? Every level is a little bit harder to get to. But if you pass the first one, it gives you confidence that you can do the second one,
right?
Even if it is a little more difficult.
One thing that I want to say about the goals that just reminded me is making goals and stuff. But if you don't reach your goal, if I don't reach my goal, it's not that I didn't. I might make a goal one day for 6 months ahead of time, but along that time, the plan might change up in there. The plan might change.
Mastering the pivot.
And that's not a bad thing if your plan changes. It's just restructuring your goal plan now. If I might make a goal today for something 6 months from now, but I might have to readjust that goal plan somewhere in between.
Case in point, we talked about earlier, from social work to business management, to administrative business.
Right.
And you had a full plan for social work, right? To get that degree, to go to school. Somewhere in there, you're like, nah, I want to go this route. Right. This is more appealing to me.
Ain't nothing wrong with it.
And that's okay. Like sometimes we have to be okay to pivot. In the words of the famous man, Bruce Lee, right? You have to be like water. And go with the flow. So setting goals is more of an outline.
Right?
Skeleton. You set these goals as an outline, And then as you walk the path in the general direction, sometimes you might branch off to the right, sometimes you might branch off to the left, right? And sometimes you might just stay on that path. But I really like everything you're sharing. Okay. Last two questions for you is what advice would you give to someone who feels overwhelmed by the challenges of early reentry?
If you feel overwhelmed,
Let's just say someone gets out, they're within 90 days of release, and they're already talking like, man, I'm good off this. Like I'm better, and really that's overwhelming talk. It's not that they can't, but so, if they're saying this to you, what's some advice that you could drop on them?
Take care of yourself first. When I got overwhelmed with full-time job, full-time work, drug court, NA, AA, I just stopped doing everything that I wasn't, absolutely required to do. I had to stop, take a break, and get my mental back. So what I did was I went to sleep. I was always running around tired and stressed out, and I did not have the time to enjoy my own accomplishments because I was always running to the next thing that I'd scheduled for myself. Excuse me, that scheduled for myself, and so I had to clear my plate.
Yeah,
I got fully rested. Made sure I was eating right, and then I scheduled an hour at the gym every day. That self-care is major, not only for your physical but for your mental. That self-care is major, and I had to readjust my schedule now. At 8 o'clock, I go to bed by 10, but at 8 o'clock, I'm not doing nothing else.
You just relaxing, even if you
Yeah,
don't
eight
fall asleep
o'clock is
until 10.
it's decompression.
Yeah, I like that.
Decompression.
Gotta decompress for sure. All right, last question. What legacy do you hope to leave behind in your community and reentry and recovery? And I mean, even with your administrative business degree, like what's the legacy you hope to leave behind, especially for your littles, your five?
Um, I just want to be remembered as I just want to be remembered as a bringer of joy. That's it.
Simple.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring joy wherever you
Joy
go. Like
wherever I go.
you can't go wrong with that. That's
Yeah.
a highly coveted skill, and I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you following up, and appreciate all of y'all for tapping in. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment. Uh, kudos, my brother. Until next time.